It's your under degrees. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling his tea, spilling and sipping his tea, spilling and sipping his tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea. Sip this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under degree, shining bright, set the stage. Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea. Sip with me, spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling 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 and sipping this tea.
Hey, what's going on, Diamond Gang? Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. What's up, David? What's up, EJ? What's up, Marie? Shouts out to my Rumble family. Shouts out to my YouTube family. If you are on Rumble, please hit that follow button. The Great Spills the Tea. I also have the Great Reactions where I react to viral moments. And I just started the Great Political Rants over there. So I have 3 channels over there. Please hit that follow button. And if you are on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. The Great Spills the Tea. You guys know it's celebrity gossip along with political topics. Tonight, guys, I got a couple things for you guys. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, okay? You guys know tomorrow, the 60-day ceasefire for the MOU, it's up. So it's over. Neither side has said that they are willing to extend it. So we're going to talk about that. Guys, right now, okay, because Trump said that the Strait of Hormuz was going to become U.S. territory, Iran now has a $30,000 bounty for any U.S. soldier captured. Guess what else we're going to talk about? Trump says that the U.S. will be scaling back on military drills with South Korea because of his relationship with Kim Jong-un, he's decided to scale back. He got upset because South Korea did not indulge in this war. So I guess this is payback. Another thing, guys, I told you guys a while back, when this is all said and done, we will have a nasty stain on us as a country, and we will literally have no allies. Okay? Remember we talked about the Mecca agreement between Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan? Guess what Trump said? Good. They could protect themselves. So, yeah, it's a lot going on. So you guys know how I do it. I always start 24 to 48 hours prior to, and then I work my way up in real time. Okay. So please, again, as you come and hit the like, I'll say this before I start and after. If you would like to support the channel, the Cash App is $ the Great Spills the Tea. On YouTube, you can support with the Cash App, Super Chat or Super Sticker, or just a simple like. Okay. Rumble, my Rumble family. You can also $ the Great Spills the Tea. If not, you can send a rant, which is the equivalent of a super chat and super sticker on YouTube. If not, a simple like will do. It is all support, regardless of how you choose to support me. So please, please, please. What's up, Mitch? Okay, I got my people in here. What's going on? Listen, I gotta say shouts out to Rumble. For some reason, that replay gang is much stronger than what it is over here on YouTube. So I gotta say shouts out to Rumble. Eventually, since I'm just now coming back, it'll be about a month, I say. So hopefully I could build my audience again. I'm still trying to figure this thing out on how to go live on both to be able to bring people up. I may have to learn OBS to do it. So I'm going to look into a few things. On Rumble, they have where you could call in, but you have to have Rumble to do it. Maybe I'll set up my own calling thing, show or, do it that way. But I'll figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my screen up, guys, so we could get into it. Yeah, it's getting crazy, guys. It's getting crazy. Trump is literally alienating the U.S. big time. So, guys, I wanted to start off with this clip first because I want you guys to pay attention to this. It has nothing to do with the war, but I thought I would bring this first. The Northcom deputy commander of the Army, he's a lieutenant. His name is Joseph Jarrett. He says that the U.S. would be unable to defend against any attacks if it swarms of drones on U.S. soil. This is how vulnerable we are right now. Listen to this.
The next threat to the homeland can be a swarm of inexpensive drones launched from inside our own borders, rather than a missile approaching from thousands of miles away. Does NORAD have the sensor coverage, authorities, and decision speed necessary to respond?
No.
And could you comment on that and on the gap today, the biggest gap you see?
Well, I mean, we don't have the sensors, and we're not, depending on where that swarm is going to attack, depends on whether we have any sensors at all, and also whether we've got any effectors to get after that problem. So we are ill-equipped right now to handle something like that, and obviously that is we've seen it used. We're seeing it used on a daily basis around the world, and we've got to figure out how to mitigate that threat, but we're not there yet.
Did you hear that? He said we are not there yet. Now remember, we talked about this. Iran is hell-bent on actually bringing it to U.S. soil. We talked about that. They threatened to bring it here. They want us to feel how they feel when they are being attacked and bombed. So he said, we're working on that. Now listen to this, guys.
Since 2022, China has launched 8...
Now listen, this is about China, okay? The belief is that they are trying the U.S. China is trying us. Take a listen to this. They're saying what they're saying is North Korea can strike anywhere in North America. Listen to this.
3 class nuclear-powered guided missile submarines, and likely will have all 8 operational by 2027, providing the Chinese with a clandestine land attack option against critical infrastructure in Alaska and along the West Coast. Meanwhile, adversaries are developing and fielding advanced nuclear and conventional delivery capabilities, cruise, hypersonic, and ballistic missiles, as well as fractional orbital bombardment systems, or FOBs, to threaten not only Alaska and Hawaii, but the entire continental United States. The Chinese are developing ICBMs equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles, as well as FOBs weapons that can approach North America from the south rather than the traditional northerly vector for which our legacy early warning radars were designed. Such systems would erode strategic stability by degrading our ability to provide granular and actionable warning of an inbound attack. The Chinese have also begun fielding a conventional armed ICBM equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles that can range targets throughout Alaska, providing Chinese leaders strike options against our homeland below the nuclear threshold. Russia's advanced missiles, like the nuclear-armed Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, are designed to circumvent the ground-based radars used by NORAD and NORTHCOM to detect and characterize an inbound threat and challenge the ability to provide threat warning and attack assessment. And finally, the North Koreans have successfully flight tested ICBMs with enough boost to deliver a nuclear payload anywhere in North America.
Did you hear that? North Korea, anywhere here. And you figure President Trump just cut South Korea off. This is insane. Meanwhile, they've been helping Russia against Ukraine. This is not okay, but let's listen.
In October of 24, unveiled a new ICBM design that may be designated to carry multiple nuclear-armed reentry vehicles. In the era of strategic competition, we recognize that geography.
Thank you, Dion. Hey, Dion. Thank you for coming through.
No longer provides the protection and standoff range of the past, and a more robust approach is needed to defend the United States and Canada. This is visible in the cyber domain, where thousands of attempts are made daily to breach our networks, originating from known state actors and an ever-growing, hard-to-detect and defeat network of non-state actors. Foreign terrorist organizations are fueling violence and destabilization, proliferating human trafficking, drug trafficking, and driving migration in the United States and her allies. The threats to North America are real and persistent, and they radiate from every point of the compass.
So y'all heard that. The threats are real. Very real. All right, Diamond Gang. I just thought it was important for you guys to hear that. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about tonight. But in a way it is. It's related, okay? But you know how I do it. We're going to start off with, how do we even get into this? Why did Trump conduct the war? I told you guys, Benjamin Netanyahu asked him. He basically sold President Trump a dream. He promised that it would be quick and easy. The people will see you as a hero, the Iranians. Listen, we haven't completed not one objective, and they keep shifting. Right now, J.D. Vance said this a couple days ago. The objective is to get gas prices down, according to J.D. Vance. Remember, that's the objective now. However, that's not a military objective, and it can't be achieved militarily. Let's take a listen, Diamond Gang.
Why did he conduct a war? Yeah, that's a good question. He did it because Israel told him to do it, and they told him that it would be easy and he would be thanked by the world, or certainly by his donors, his political donors. So that's why he did it. And the military command structure did not push back hard enough, explaining to him what they did know, what they did expect to happen, which I think the intelligence in the United States, at least 20 years ago, we knew very well the kinds of things that would happen if we tried to go to war with Iran. We knew what would happen. He either was not told that information or he ignored it. So now it seems like success in this war would be, let's get back to February 28th, when there was no war and the strait was completely open and not controlled by the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. So we are changing our objectives by the day, by the hour. I think Vice President Vance just said today that success in the war, the primary objective of the war now is to keep gas prices down in the United States. So again,
That's not a military objective. And guess what, guys? I'm gonna show you guys why. I'm gonna tell you guys why gas prices are not as high as they could be. There's multiple reasons, and we'll get into that.
This thing is very crazy, but one thing that cannot be argued with are the facts on the ground, and those are very clear. We have indeed lost this war, and the objectives that we had have basically crumbled to dust. They are not only are they impossible to achieve the way the United States wants them, they aren't even they're not even military objectives. They cannot be achieved militarily.
Iran is undeterred.
Now, let me say this, guys. Who's actually winning? I'm going to tell you this. When this is all said and done, Iran will be the superpower of the Middle East. China is and will be the most powerful country. Russia will be richer because it is selling oil. NATO will be weaker thanks to Trump bullying and removing troops from NATO. And we will be less safe and isolated. I've said this 1,000 times. That's where we'll be, isolated. We'll have a nasty stain on us as a country and isolated because of that. But let's take a listen. China's is coming out strong. Russia will be richer and NATO will be weaker. Take a listen.
And China is more powerful. Russia is richer. NATO is weaker. And Americans are less safe and more isolated. This has been Operation Epic Failure. And this president owns it in entirety. There have been presidents in the past, John, that have started wars that they've had to hand off to their successors. There have been presidents in the past that have had to end ingloriously wars that were not working. But Donald Trump is going to be the only president in American history to single-handedly start and lose a war.
Now, let me stop you right here. Let's get into this nuclear issue. And I told you guys this. I believe that the straits will eventually open. I don't think that's impossible. We will have to bend. We will have to give a little, but it will be back open. I think the main issue and why this war will go on and on and on is because of the enriched uranium, which that was one of the objectives, okay? To put a deal in place will be almost impossible because of many reasons. When the uranium was on the table last year in June 2025, we bombed them. Came back to the table this year, February. We launched a full-scale war against Iran. There's many players that are way more hardline. I showed you guys they are stepping their men up and they're placing them where they need them to be. Right now, the IRGC is in control. These guys are way more hardline. Okay? They are in favor of nuclear weapons. Okay. Trump tore up the JCPOA without putting another deal in place, allowing Netanyahu to sell him on this war. And guess what? The enriched uranium, that part of the objectives, that's been sidelined. You haven't heard them discuss that. None of that. We cannot end this war without putting a deal in place. That's just the bottom line. So let's take a listen. But I believe this is going to be the cause of why the war will drag out.
Nuclear issue is sitting out there by itself. It's hard to see how it gets settled. And on top of that, it's important to understand that the Iranians now have a tremendous incentive to get nuclear weapons after what's happened since February 28th. In fact, I think you could go back to the June war of 2025 and say that if you look at what happened in June 2025 and you look at what's happened since February 28th, the Iranians would be fools not to acquire nuclear weapons. And furthermore, as all sorts of people say, the people who are now in charge.
Remember, right before they put the MOU in place, the supposedly, allegedly, the supreme leader said, no talks about the enriched uranium. It's off the table.
In Iran are more inclined to want nuclear weapons, given what they've said in the past, than their predecessors were. So if you think about what's happened here, going back to the JCPOA and going back to what happened before the February 28th war, is very clear that during that lengthy period, the nuclear issue was the key issue. But what's happened here is that we've now reached a point with the 8 August proposal that the Iranians have put on the table, where the nuclear issue, it may be too strong to say that it's been sidelined, but it is now an issue that is going to be incredibly difficult for the United States and Israel to resolve in ways that we find satisfactory. And how
that part, this war is going to drag out. Okay. Now, I feel like this. I feel like the blame is not totally on President Trump. Was there advice that he did not take? Absolutely. However, in my opinion, Pete Hegseth played a huge part in this. For myself, my opinion, he's underqualified. He kept a lot of things that was going on away from Trump. He mismanaged this war big time, because you figure we depleted majority of our stockpile in the beginning of this conflict. So I can't honestly say, we can just only fault President Trump. No. And I believe that it will come down on Pete Hegseth. His day is coming.
How do you assess the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's performance during all this?
Well, I think he's followed the wishes of the president. I do have concerns that the president said he was not aware that we had a shortage of weapons like cruise missiles and Patriots. That's not a good thing. I think that's the number one issue. We've conducted these operations, and it appears that there's been a lack of transparency. I think we'll get some transparency when we go back to the Washington, D.C. here on the 31st of August. But there's a big concern for many of us that when you have a shortage of Patriots, shortage of cruise missiles and other weapons, that this has not been managed well, or in the fact that the president claims he did not know. So that's a concern.
Now, okay, you guys know we have a munition problem. We claimed that we decimated, we destroyed everything, we had taken away Iran's capabilities, and it looks like we haven't, because, again, they keep coming up with missiles and these drones, which is a big major problem for us. Iran has proven time and time again that they can penetrate U.S. air defenses. They've proven that. As a matter of fact, they are doing it with drones. And what they're doing is they are launching them as they launch the missiles to interfere with our air defense systems. Okay. We talked about this a couple live streams ago, that these drones for us, they are becoming a serious issue. Okay. Big time. Now, some people feel like we still got enough power that we can take it all the way. We could resume. They feel like we should have never let up. I don't feel that way. I feel otherwise. I feel like we missed the opportunity to negotiate. But I want y'all to take a listen to this.
We claim that we've destroyed all of Iran's ballistic missile capability. I think that's a pipe dream. I don't think we have. And this is one of the concerns among our military leaders. If we resume the war again, the Iranians have proven that they can penetrate American air defenses.
Let me say this. Let me answer this. You said, I believe if Israel is threatened, it will use its 90 nuclear weapons. They're going to be alone as well, very isolated. They have caused havoc in the Middle East for a good while. And I got a nice piece in here on a history about it. But they will be isolated as well. I believe that, yeah, if they're backed into a corner, they will use it. So I agree with you, David.
This is a disaster to be having to make concessions to the Islamic regime. Many in the party believe if it takes 200, 300,000 ground troops, then that's the price. Then that has to be done. President after president has confronted the Islamic regime and failed and faltered.
That part right there, I do not agree with, because at the end of the day, Obama was able to get 95% of the enriched uranium, allow them to have a small nuclear program with inspectors, and the straits remained open and there was no casualties because there was no war. So I don't agree. And again, Israel's intelligence said it was working, and so did the U.S. intelligence. They said it was working. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. He tore it up and didn't put anything in place, and that is the reason why we are where we are right now. How do you allow a country to go rogue? All right, let's go.
And now this president is faltering in front of the Islamic regime. He came in thinking this was going to be easy. He did not use enough force. He does not want to use enough force, and his results show.
Here's the deal. Back in June 2025, the force was unnecessary. They put the enriched uranium on the table and said that we will dilute it and sell it as something else. We didn't take that opportunity because why? Israel said they were close to having a nuclear weapon. But let's go. All right, guys. Iran said that Hormuz will reopen, but it depends on conditions that the U.S. must agree to per the MOU. Without it, they're not doing it. Let's get into it. All right, I gotta hear all sides. So you guys know, I know y'all hate when I do this, but I gotta hear all sides. It says what is stated in the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding is the end of the war, meaning in the Islamabad Memoranda. The end of the war was declared. Yes, the United States violated the memorandum of understanding, and clashes have resumed. But we did not have a ceasefire. That would now need. But now we have found ourselves in a new situation.
همه جنگ رو داشتیم که الان وضعیت جدیدی رو پیدا کردیم. هم قطر هم
Both Qatar and Pakistan are exchanging messages. Guess what, guys? Really quick. Iran is accusing Qatar of holding 3 of their soldiers as hostages. We're going to get into that as well. But I brought that piece to show you guys. They are to get that. Okay, one soldier died. I don't want to tell you guys the complete story. And in order to get that soldier's body and bring it back, they were actually behind the scenes communicating directly. So it's like they're okay, but they're on the brink of not being okay. And we'll get into that later.
پاکستان پیام‌هایی رو رد و بدل می‌کنن در تماس
And are in contact with us.
با ما هستن و ولی اصلا
But this does not mean negotiations.
به معنای مذاکره نیست. ما هنوز تصمیم
But this does not mean negotiations.
برای شروع مجدد مذاکره با آمریکا
To resume negotiations with the United States.
گرفته نشدیم. ما فعلا داریم
For now, we are designing a temporary route
یک مسیر موقت رو طراحی می‌کنیم
that will later be converted into a final route in subsequent stages.
که بعد در مراحل بعدی تبدیل به مسیر نهایی بشه. یک کار فنی هست بین
This is a technical task being carried out between specialists
متخصصین دو کشور داره انجام میشه. نیروهای
from the two countries, Iran and Oman. Now remember, last week, Trump kept promising that the straits would be open. When they found out that this is between Iran and Oman, you have nothing to do with this. Until you comply with the MOU, the straits will remain closed.
مسلح درگیرش هستن. به هر حال اونها صاحب نظر
The armed forces are involved in it in any case.
اصلی در این خصوص هستن. ممکنه
They are the primary experts in this regard.
هست که به زودی به نتیجه برسیم ولی میخوام تاکید
It is possible that we will reach a result soon.
بکنم که این
But I want to emphasize that this negotiation
مذاکره با باز شدن تنگی
and the opening of the Straits of Hormuz are two separate issues.
هرمز دو بحث جداگانه هست. یک مذاکره فنی هست
One is a technical negotiation
مربوط به تعیین مسیر
regarding the determination of the maritime route. Once this route is determined,
دریایی وقتی این مسیر تعیین شد حالا آیا
whether the straits be reopened or not depends on the fulfillment
بازگشایی بشه تنگی یا نه اون منوط به تحقق شرایط دیگری
of other conditions that the United States must adhere to.
هست که باید آمریکا به اونها پایبند باشه. مذاکره
Iran says it reached the deal with Oman on Hormuz the shipping route. Negotiations between Iran and Oman
ایران و عمان از 2-3 ماه
began 2 or 3 months ago.
قبل شروع شده بود. یعنی
In other words, at roughly the same time
تقریبا همزمان با امضای یادداشت تفاهم خاتمه
as the MOU.
جنگ ما با عمان هم صحبت می‌کردیم.
Remember, guys, I told you Oman would have to get involved and stay involved for anything, for all of this to run smooth. I told you guys that. Okay, so it says to end the war.
می‌کردیم در
It was signed. We were also holding talks with Oman
برهه‌های خیلی به نتیجه
at certain points.
نزدیک شده بودیم منتها
We came very close to reaching an agreement.
کارشکنی آمریکا و برخی دیگه است.
But obstruction by the United States. Remember, Oman kept hopping off and on. They brought it up. Oman said, no, thank you. Then Oman came back and said, okay, we will do this with you. And then they jumped back off. It was because the U.S. kept getting in the way of that.
طرف‌ها خیلی وقتها
And some other parties, meaning Israel,
ایجاد اخلال می‌کرد در این مسیر.
repeatedly disrupted the process.
در 3 هفته اخیر مذاکرات
Over the past 3 weeks,
روند رو به جلو داشته.
the negotiations have made progress.
به صورت روان انجام شده.
We had previously announced
قبلا هم اعلام کرده
that an agreement had been reached
بودیم که در مورد
on a map agreed by both sides for maritime traffic. They tried to play Iran out of their leverage. The United States came in and said, okay, what about keep the straits open and they can either come in on Oman's side or Iran's side. Iran said, no, we're not going for that. We're not giving up our leverage. And if we want to charge tolls, what they will do is go around. They will go around to Oman. That's all. And they won't come in on our side. So they told the U.S. no. Okay.
مورد توافق طرفین برای تردد کشتیرانی توافق حاصل شده.
It was a collective effort.
خب کار جمعی بود که وزارت
The foreign ministry as the lead body
امور خارجه به عنوان
responsible for the negotiations
متولی مذاکرات کار رو پیش می برد، اما خب
move the process forward.
همه دستگاه‌های
But all the relevant agencies were involved. So they're saying those that were supposed to be involved were involved. The United States had nothing to do with this.
زیراب درش دخیل بودن به خاطر اینکه
Determining a transit route
تعیین مسیر تردد چیزی نیست که وزارت
is something the foreign ministry can do on its own.
خارجه بتونه انجام بده، یک کار فنی.
It is a technical matter involving security.
همراه با ملاحظات امنیتی،
environmental and many other considerations.
زیست محیطی و خیلی جوانب دیگه که خب
And it was carried out
با همت و همراهی
with the efforts and the cooperation of the country's defense establishment.
مجموعه دفاعی کشور صورت گرفت. وضعیت ناامنی در تنگه
The state of instability in the Strait of Hormuz
Now this one was converted. Take a listen, guys.
is exclusively the result of the illegal action of the United States and the Zionist regime. On an international level, they most often present the subject in a way that suggests it is Iran that has caused instability in the Strait of Hormuz. We all know that the Strait of Hormuz had no problems up to February 28, 2026, and it was open. The exploitation of this waterway by the United States and the Zionist regime to attack Iran, as well as the exploitation of adjacent areas on the southern coast of the Persian Gulf to plan and prepare attacks against Iran, resulted in instability of the strait. Iran was and is rightful in adopting a set of measures to safeguard its interests and national security as a coastal state of this strait. The United States continues to speak with pride about implementing a naval blockade against Iran. This is an admission of an aggressive act against Iran. According to international law, this is an act of aggression. Its threats continue, and other violations of the Memorandum of Understanding to End the War continue. Well, in these circumstances, we naturally cannot say that security and safety are established in the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, guys, let me tell you, I got the story. Remember when Trump, they did the MOU, right? We were supposed to strike them. And remember, Iran threatened to bomb Elon Musk businesses over there, and all of a sudden we have a deal, right? First 30 days, it'll be open free. That's how the MOU came about, guys. Remember that. But tell you what happened behind the scenes. Iranian parliament speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf said he halted the negotiations with the U.S. after Israel's latest attack on Beirut. Remember, they attacked Beirut pretty bad. He warned, made a call, put past the messages, said that there will be more Iranian attacks. Next thing you know, remember, that's when they threatened to bomb Elon Musk's businesses. That same night, bingo, we'll move the U.S. blockade. It'll be free 30 days. The MOU came into place. But he's telling the story. He's telling the story exactly the way that it happened. Now, remember, Trump came out like, yo, we got a deal. They were being nice. They were begging for a deal. That is not what happened. That's not what happened. All of a sudden, we get a deal when they decide they threaten Elon Musk, SpaceX over there. But let's take a listen. He said on that last afternoon, when I'm just going to say Beirut. Dila was attacked. We stopped all negotiations with the U.S. right there. We said tonight we will strike you the way we say. And if the Israelis regime respond to the attack, we will strike across the entire region. They've threatened that multiple times, but I remember this. The result of our message was that night they lifted the blockade. Not after 30 days, but that night. Trump then posted, we will lift the blockade tonight. And wrote underneath it, of course, the Iranians will also reopen the Strait of Hormuz. When I saw that, I stopped it. I said that there is no such thing in our agreement. And I told the mediators that if this tweet is not deleted now, we will attack. We will. With that exact same intensity. Please go back and check the history. 58 minutes later, Trump deleted the second part of that message about the straits. And he wrote that the straits will be administered within the framework. This is how this MOU came about, guys, behind the scenes. Of the agreement starting Saturday. Isn't this the dignity of Islam.
اسلام نیست. این مذاکره
This kind of negotiation is a fight.
یعنی مبارزه.
I wanted to show y'all what happened behind the scenes and how it happened. Okay? Because we weren't getting the truth from President Trump. You guys know that. So that's what happened. If you guys can recall, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was mid-afternoon when they threatened to bomb. I went live that night about it. So that's what happened. All right, guys. Where are we now? Oh, here we go. All right, so, of course, Trump says he declares the Strait of Hormuz U.S. territory. When he did this, and we'll get into this later, that's when they put that $30,000 bounty on the U.S. soldier. If it's a woman that catches a U.S. soldier, it's more. It's like double the amount. But let's take a listen. This is what got them so upset to put the bounty out. Oh, sorry. This is actually the threat. So let me go back. It says any dear fighter who unalives or captures an American and hands them over to any unit of the Islamic Republic of Iran's army with the support of those dear ones willing to participate, financial jihad will receive in addition to the great reward of jihad. And under the Army's guarantee, it says right here, breaking news, Iran puts a $30,000 bounty on every American service member unalived or captured after Trump sent them into an open-ended war. Once he said that he was going to claim the straits as territory, they put this threat out. A generous gift of $30,000. All right, we back on track, guys. So Trump declares this is the threat that set them off to make the bounty $30,000. He declares that the straits will be U.S. territory. First and foremost, it's an international shipping lane. It's territorial waters. It's Iran and Oman. Right now, all Trump is trying to do is exert military control with the U.S. blockade. So, I mean, him saying it means nothing because he can't do it. The traffic has slowed down significantly. However, Iran is still getting ships in and out of there. But let's take a listen.
U.S. President Donald Trump is once again asserting control over the Strait of Hormuz, at least verbally. He suggested the United States is set to make the strait a U.S. territory. Now, it should not be taken literally in terms of Trump's comments for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is an international shipping lane. Second, these are territorial waters for not just Iran, but also Oman. So what is the U.S. president doing? He's trying to exert military control, given the fact the United States still has an ongoing naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and one that the defense secretary says could go on indefinitely.
And after we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States. We have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
Now, Donald Trump's comments are somewhat overstated in terms of the level of control the United States has currently over the Strait of Hormuz. When the U.S. president says that ships are not going through the strait unless the United States wants them to, that's not entirely true. Certainly, there has been a significant slowdown of traffic, but some ships still are transiting the strait. Now, what's important to note here is the timing of Donald Trump's comments, because you'll remember about a week ago, members of the Trump administration were insisting there would soon be a negotiated settlement to reopen the strait.
Listen, the MOU is dead tomorrow. That's it. Today was the last day. Scott Bessent got plans. Okay. All they're going to do is implement more sanctions on Iran. They've been living like this for decades. They've been preparing for this for decades. But let's go.
Well, that's clearly not happening. And even worse, there has been fresh violence in the Strait of Hormuz.
Trump says he'll soon declare the...
Now, listen, once he said that, they put the bounty out. They basically said that the dealers with Oman gave us the demands again, called Trump delusional, and stated that they could keep it closed until January 2029. We talked about this the last live stream. So they're not concerned about none of that. What's up? Do the right thing. Thank you. Thank you for stopping through, baby. All right, let's get it. Let's hear it.
Strait of Hormuz as U.S. territory. Iran describes the comments as delusional and insists the U.S. must accept strategic defeat. Here are some of your latest updates from the past 24 hours. After nearly 6 months of war, Donald Trump is no longer talking about reopening the Strait of Hormuz. He's instead threatening to annex it.
This war is strictly about who's winning, okay? Who's winning?
It's only been a week since Trump said a deal was imminent to reopen the strait. It now appears those negotiations have stalled yet again.
And after we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
Iran's deputy foreign minister called Trump.
He had to chuckle. He don't even believe that.
Trump's comments delusional. Qasem Gharibabadi wrote on X, once and for all, accept the reality. Up to this point, you have suffered strategic and...
That is the guy that I just showed you guys that basically told us what happened the night, what came about, what made them want to sit down and handle the MOU. That's who posted on X. He watches everything that President Trump puts out there, and he will respond.
Heavy defeats. The Strait of Hormuz has been Iranian, is Iranian, and will remain Iranian. Iranian officials are confident they can handle the pressure from the US and are not committing to further direct talks.
هم قطر هم پاکستان پیام‌هایی رو رد و بدل می‌کنن، در تماس با ما هستن، ولی اصلا به معنای مذاکره نیست. ما هنوز تصمیمی برای شروع مجدد مذاکره با آمریکا گرفته نشده.
As the diplomacy stalls, Washington is now threatening to escalate the economic side of the war. On Thursday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said unprecedented sanctions will be issued next week. But after decades of similar measures, some are asking what's left to sanction. Remember, tougher sanctions were reimposed in 2018 after the U.S. left the Iran nuclear deal.
So you guys see that. So tougher sanctions was in 2018. Tougher. Again. They adapt. This is what they do.
That caused oil exports to plummet by 80%. But Iran adapted to evade the measures, and when the war began, exports were back up to around 1.67 million barrels of oil per day. That was maintained until the US imposed its naval blockade on Iranian ports in April. Oil remains the primary US target, but banking, other industries, and individuals have all been cut from international markets. The IMF says inflation in Iran is approaching 70%, and its economy is shrinking rapidly.
Unemployment is high. Poverty is rising in Iran. There's a lot of things that the Iranians have to care about. Of course, the IRGC politically is probably in a better situation than the Trump administration right now, not least because the IRGC has prepared for this war for decades and the Trump administration barely prepared at all.
Bingo. They have prepared for this for decades, and the Trump administration barely prepared at all. Again, we did not fight this conflict strategically at all. At all, guys.
Fallout of the war isn't just economic, it's now environmental. 2 oil spills from tankers are expanding rapidly. One has reached the shores of Iran's Qashm Island, impacting a fragile ecosystem and fishing communities, and a separate, much larger...
Yeah, I seen that yesterday. These oil spills, they're getting worse. It's getting bad.
oil spill has expanded to more than 3,000 square kilometers off the coast of Oman, but details remain unclear of who damaged those vessels.
Accept the reality of defeat. Those are...
All right, Diamond Gang. Iran claims victory strategically. They double down and say no direct talks. Again, Scott Bessent claims new measures are coming tomorrow to assist Iran's economy to basically crash and burn. It's going to be more sanctions. And like I said, they have adapted, they prepared. They've been living this way for decades. So who believes that the economy will fall? I don't. I mean, that the Iranians will fold. I don't.
Iran's words to US President Donald Trump in response to his threat to claim the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has dismissed Trump's intention to declare the key shipping route as an American territory, calling it, quote, fanciful delusions. Trump insists the US has effective control over the route and could formally claim it pretty soon, despite shipping traffic remaining at a near standstill.
Iran has attacked another ship in the...
Now listen, guys, okay? We are going to get into Saudi Arabia, Washington, and Tokyo. So again, Iran, they keep attacking ships in the straits. The U.S. blockade remains. Scott Bessent is ready to unleash more sanctions. But let me explain to you guys, and remember I said this in the beginning of the live stream, why the gas is not as high as it could be right now. And you're not going to believe these reasons. Saudi Arabia is using pipelines that they already had in place. They're pumping oil away from the straits to other coasts, and then they're exporting it. But they did this pre-conflict. They've been doing this pre-conflict. Washington, which is us in Tokyo, we have released about 2 million barrels of oil per day from our reserve. All right. That's why gas ain't go up sky high just yet. And what else? China has slashed its consumption of oil by half since the war began. So they purchased oil cheap. They purchased oil cheaply before the war even started, reducing its exports of petrochemicals. And they claim that the people in China stopped driving so much. It wasn't intentional, but it helped us in the long run. But take a listen. That is why gas is not $10 a gallon just yet.
Strait of Hormuz, the Trump administration says it will not lift the blockade. And we're hearing that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is set to announce a massive tranche of new sanctions against Iran. This war that began as a battle of strength has now become a battle of wills. I'm on a flight after a week in Saudi Arabia, and I thought I'd jump on here to answer the question, how come gas prices or petrol prices
Hold on, let me say this though. David said Russia is the most sanctioned country in the world, but is still here 5 years after starting the war in Ukraine. Could you recall during this conflict that Trump cut them a break and then extended it? He lifted the sanctions for them and extended it during this war for a little bit. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But all right, let's get into it.
we British call them, haven't been higher. Some analysts at the beginning of the war predicted that oil would reach $150 a barrel. That hasn't happened. Why? By the way, there's another question. If this conflict drags on for months, maybe reignites into a full-scale war again, which seems a real possibility. Can oil prices stay low? The Economist has some really good answers to these questions. It points out that Gulf countries, particularly, for example, Saudi Arabia, where I've just been.
But you said that we have limited reserve. Yeah, we do. But since this conflict, then they're claiming that we released 2 million barrels of oil from our reserves per day. That's what they're stating.
Have used pipelines that they already had in
And remember, not too long ago, they said our reserve was getting low as well.
place to pump oil away from the Strait of Hormuz to other coasts and then export it that way. It also says that Washington and Tokyo have released a record 2 million barrels of oil per day from their reserves. But it points to the actions of another country as helping keep prices down. That country is China. It says China has slashed its consumption of oil by half since the crisis began. It's done that by buying oil cheaply before the crisis, by reducing its exports of refined petrochemicals, and it says that people in China have stopped driving so much. So decisions taken in Beijing have effectively, maybe not intentionally.
So because they made those decisions and it was unintentional, it actually helped us in the long run. But how long will it stay down and not go up to $10 a gallon? Who knows?
Helped Americans keep gas prices down. I know that people are paying more at the pump, but maybe not as much as they might have been. The Economist concludes that China has demonstrated now through the Iran war that it can single-handedly stabilize world oil markets. But only, it suggests, for months. This can't last into 2027 and beyond.
Hey, this is Brady.
All right, guys. Now, remember, I told you guys in the beginning of this live stream, Iran is accusing Qatar of capturing 3 of their pilots. All right. And this happened in the beginning of the war. I'll go more into it as I show the clips. But this could cause another conflict. Okay. So we have Israel right now in Gaza and in Hezbollah. I mean, they are acting a fool. I mean, bombing. It got bad today. Then we have the Houthis in Saudi Arabia, Iran and the U.S., and potentially this can cause some conflict. Take a listen.
Breaking news. Iran is accusing Qatar of capturing 3 of their pilots. They say this goes back to the early days of the war in which 2 Iranian jets were shot down during an attack on Al Udeid air base. 1 of those pilots was killed, but 3, they say, are in custody here in Qatar. Qatar, however, says that they categorically deny the claims, adding that search and rescue teams were dispatched to search for the remains, but were not able to find them. Follow for the latest updates.
Now, again, guys, remember I told you in the beginning of this live stream that the man that passed away, through back channels, they were able to get his body, okay? But Qatar is denying it.
On the situation with Iran.
And what happened was they shot him down through their defense systems.
5 months ago, Iranian warplanes struck one of the most fortified military bases on Earth. 3 of the pilots didn't make it home and they remain unaccounted for. Now, Iran and Qatar are fighting about it publicly. Here's what we know. In early March, Iran sent Su-24 Fencer bombers toward Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. This is the largest.
And this is just more details. But right here, this shows you that they've been talking behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So it's civilized. But right now, it's now becoming a public issue.
U.S. base in the Middle East. It's the forward headquarters of the U.S. Central Command and home to roughly 10,000 American troops. Al Udeid is ringed by Patriot missile batteries and layered air defense. But it was Qatar's air defenses that shot down the jets. Each Su-24 carries a crew of 2, so 4 people were aboard. The only pilot of the 4 that we have a name for is Major Majid Kazemi. He was killed and his body was retrieved last month after months of quiet coordination with Qatar, which suggests that there is a back channel in place, even as these two governments trade accusations in public. The other three crew members haven't been identified by either Qatar or the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran has called them brave pilots, not martyrs. And that language signals that they're expecting these pilots alive and returned to them. What we can infer is that Su-24 crews are among the most experienced in the Iranian Air Force. And
let me read this comment. You said, do the right thing, said the U.S. better keep it as an air assault because I don't think we'll make it if it's a ground assault. We're definitely, but guess what? Last week, they already said we can't win just with an air assault. So there's no way. But I doubt, not right now. I can't see Trump making that decision to put troops on the ground.
a strike on Al Udeid would not have been flown by anyone junior. Qatar sits about 200 kilometers from Iran across the Persian Gulf. When the aircraft was shot down, the pilots would likely have ejected. Whether they came down on Qatari soil or in open water determines their legal status as prisoners of war on land or maritime rescue at sea. Iran has demanded that investigators be allowed to travel to Qatar. This suggests that they believe that at least some of the crew landed there. Qatar's own statement that it invited Iran to be briefed on search and rescue operations hints that they believe the same without confirming that they have the men in custody. In fact, they have categorically said that they don't. Under the Geneva Conventions, captured combatants must be registered with the Red Cross and repatriated when hostilities.
Bingo, that right there. Qatar has to keep it quiet because it does not want to offend America. That is a fact.
End. The April ceasefire was supposed to be that moment, but peace talks collapsed in June and fighting continues near the Strait of Hormuz now. Qatar is caught between its U.S. military partnership and Iranian demands, as well as the motivation to move diplomacy forward. Qatar is paradoxically well placed to solve this. It brokered the 2023 Hamas-Israel hostage deal and has long served as a back channel between Washington and Tehran, a quiet third-party arrangement, one that lets Qatar avoid officially acknowledging the pilots, is the most likely path forward out of this. For now, 5 months have passed, and these 3 Iranian airmen have been suspended between multiple ceasefires, diplomatic talks, and now a maritime standoff between the U.S. and Iran.
Will soon be.
Now, guys, remember I told you that President Trump put a post out on True Social saying that Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, he basically said good, they could protect themselves, right? Because of the Mecca Defense Pact that they just recently signed over a week ago. All right. So they believe that the U.S. is unreliable, that we cannot protect them. So they felt like they would be stronger together. Pakistan, their military is an asset. Turkey, they need a nuclear deterrent. And Saudi Arabia, they need help with Iran and the Houthis. Remember, the Houthis is causing chaos over there. But pay attention, guys, because when it's all said and done, I said, we will be isolated and so will Israel. Okay? Because we are offending all of our allies. They are thinking about not hosting military bases at all over there in the Middle East. That is what our allies is saying, and we'll get into that as well. They don't want us over there. But let's go. This is a nice long piece. Let's get into it.
3 years since Israel launched the genocide in Gaza and in the West Bank and South Lebanon and attacked Iran. For much of that time, Turkey and the Arab world held up their hands in horror but did nothing. Do you want us to start a war with Israel? The collective cry of the impotent went up. I heard this many times in Ankara, which continued to allow oil from its closest ally, Azerbaijan, to go through a Turkish port into the eager, waiting hands of the Israeli military. Turkey did stop an Israeli and US-inspired armed ground invasion of Iran by Iranian Kurdish militias. And Saudi Arabia has refused to normalize with Israel, absent a credible path to.
And guess who they're sending to Israel to talk and try to move this plan to as far as Israel and Gaza? Jared Kushner, and we're going to get into that later.
a Palestinian state. But for much of those 3 years, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a free hand. The Turkish army retreated when Israel bombed and invaded southern Syria. The Arab League was impotent. The Gulf Cooperation Council non-existent until last week. What finally pushed the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who had spent billions investing in the US President Donald Trump, to sign a mutual defense pact with Turkey and Pakistan will be a matter for historians to ponder. But at a guess,
Because they've been talking about this all day about our allies, they brought up this defense pact, and they brought up the fact that they may stop hosting military bases over there in the Middle East. He got so enraged that he made a post saying, good, they could protect themselves.
I would say the Chinese have it right. There has been no official comment from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, but the official Xinhua agency put it like this: America is unreliable. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan sign a defense agreement. China could have seen this pact as an Islamic NATO, but it didn't. Its experts think, rightly in my view, that Trump's failed attack on Iran not only prompted Arab nations under its military umbrella to question America's actual military strength, but also America's ability to protect them. So the conclusion everyone draws is that the Gulf states had to have the ability to defend themselves. On paper, at least, a military pact between these three powers is formidable. Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia have respective nominal GDPs of $452 billion, $1.1 trillion, and $1.3 trillion. Between the three, they could field over 5,600 main battle tanks, over...
With the three together, they would be very powerful because Pakistan's military alone is an asset.
1,100 combat fighter jets, a fleet of drones, ballistic missiles, a nuclear deterrent, and well over 1 million battle-hardened soldiers. Each partner in the Mecca agreement has a different motivation. Pakistan, which is battling at least 2 insurgencies, needs money. Pakistan's army is finding its military strength becoming an economic asset. It also needs a strategic counterweight to India. The point was not lost in New Delhi. A former Indian Foreign Secretary, Kanwal Sibal, described the pact as a very negative development for Indian interests and said India should expand its strategic options with the United Arab Emirates, Israel, Greece, and...
You said, but can America exist effectively outside NATO? I don't know. Maybe.
Cyprus. Turkey needs a nuclear deterrent, particularly against the almost daily Israeli threats that they are next in their sights. It also needs to help the new government in Syria force a withdrawal of Israel.
That's a fact. David said Turkey has the second biggest army in NATO. That's a fact.
Israeli forces from southern Syria. Its high-tech military-industrial complex needs markets. But Turkey clearly sees this pact as a counterweight to the American project to install Israel as the new colonial governor of the Middle East. If this military pact had one author, it surely would be the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. A day before Erdogan flew off to Riyadh.
But remember, Iran told the three, that piece of paper is not going to help you guys. But they basically said, you know, that you were paying for security as far as the U.S. and we can't do anything for them.
In great secrecy, Fidan warned Israel of the dangers of international isolation. He's saying that Israel's free ride is coming to an end. Saudi Arabia needs a lever over...
That part, Israel's free ride is coming to an end. Not only will the U.S. be isolated, but Israel will. When this is all said and done, Iran will be the power of... They're going to be looked at as the power of the Middle East.
Iran and the Houthis in Yemen, which have recently closed the strait at the mouth of the Red Sea and has begun bombarding oil fields in the Saudi kingdom. MBS's plan to modernize the kingdom.
And again, we are not the only ones out of munitions. Israel's hurting right now, and so is Saudi Arabia. We found out last week. They're low on munitions as well.
Has repeatedly hit a brick wall with all the wars, all the fighting that's going on around his kingdom. But the common thread in all of this is that America has become an unreliable security partner. Close behind that lies the conclusion that an isolationist America is uniquely incapable or unwilling to rein in Israel. This conclusion is
that part. We can't rein in Israel. Israel is doing what it wants, and this big attack on Hezbollah proves it. Okay, he's up for re-election in October. He's not thinking about nothing that Trump wants right now, and that's serious. Netanyahu's not thinking about any of that.
Brought home to America's Arab allies almost every week. Israel collapsed the Memorandum of Understanding Trump signed with Iran in June, which bound the US to stop all military action on all.
Now pay attention, because he ramped up attacks with Hezbollah,
all fronts, including that of Israel's in southern Lebanon, working through a rival faction in the Washington administration to the one that signed and promoted the MOU. Israel signed a deal with the Lebanese presidency, although not with its government, which allowed Israel to continue its military operations in southern Lebanon. Within 20
Exactly. The MOU, the first line, was a full withdrawal. They put together a sad deal. Again, I told this story multiple times. The president of Lebanon was upset, said he was tired of Iran using them as a bargaining chip. They went and sat down, and the U.S. is supposed to be overseeing this. And they gave up many of their rights and their land. Okay?
24 hours of signing a nuclear cooperation deal with the Saudis, Trump inserted a demand that the kingdom had to normalize with Israel first. Then came the agreement the Board of Peace signed with Hamas in Gaza.
Saudi said no, they're not going to recognize Israel.
Hamas said it would hand in its heavy weapons to the new Palestinian administration of Gaza, but only to be logged and stored, and all this would happen after a full Israeli withdrawal. Israel applied pressure, and the Board of Peace, who signed the document, immediately started rewriting it. It now said that withdrawal and decommissioning would proceed simultaneously, and that all weapons, light and heavy alike, would have to be destroyed, and not simply logged.
And right now, this deal is going downhill. That's why he is sending Jared Kushner to ask his fake uncle, Benjamin Netanyahu, to try to convince him with this Gaza-Hamas deal.
And stored. Not content with forcing a rewrite of the deal, Netanyahu came out on Sunday with a straight rejection of the plan that the Board of Peace had negotiated for so long. The Board of Peace's reaction to that? Oh well, we'll have to go back to the drawing board again. What happened repeatedly under Joe Biden is now happening to Donald Trump. If anything, Trump's weakness and his frequent changes of mind and U-turns is spurring Netanyahu on. The same thing is happening to Trump's on and off talks with Iran. Trump went into this war on Israeli intelligence that the Islamic Republic...
Bingo, Israeli intelligence, which we all know did not tell President Trump the truth.
It was so weak after the January uprising that the regime was low-hanging fruit, which would fall at the merest touch. The opposite happened. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, became stronger under sustained attack and now feels it's in a position to dictate terms to Trump about the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. On Saturday, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Mohammad Bagher Zolgadeh, said that Washington would have to lift its naval blockade and sanctions, withdraw US military forces from the region, pay war reparations, and release frozen Iranian assets before the strait reopened. On Sunday, the IRGC said it now regarded the strait not just as a waterway, but, open quotes, a theatre of war. End quotes. Trump is balking at going back to war, but equally cannot get Iran to open the straits on anything like his terms.
He missed it. He missed the mark. When they came with those demands, he should have countered and brought them to the table. But his ego
Now, will the Mecca agreement have an immediate impact on stopping Trump walking away from whatever deal he has signed, or stopping Israel blowing up any ceasefire? Not immediately. On Sunday alone, the Houthis said they had targeted Saudi troop concentrations in Yemen's Red Sea coastal city of Mecca with ballistic missiles and drones. But if this alliance really does come into operation, it will strengthen the hand of regional negotiators with Iran and over time shrink the space in which Israel can operate. On Gaza, it's been
That part, the day is coming for Israel.
clear from the start that Israel and Netanyahu had a different agenda than either Biden or Trump did, and that each president did nothing about enforcing the United States will. Biden, Trump.
Eventually, President Trump is going to have to put his foot down and make or try to attempt to enforce whatever deal comes about. He's going to have to try to enforce Israel to do it.
And now the Board of Peace all maintain the illusion that Israel's object is to disarm Hamas, after which they will withdraw. All see and describe this war as temporary. Israel.
What's up, Says? Thank you for coming through. I appreciate you. Guys, make sure you hit the like, please, and thank you. If you would like to support the channel, it is $ The Great Spills the Tea. You can also support Super Chat, Super Sticker. If you are on Rumble, you can support via Rant, which is the same equivalent. $ The Great Spills the Tea. Or you can hit the like to help keep me in the algorithm. All right, let's go, Diamond Gang.
Purpose has been very different. It does not want this war to stop. If Hamas is disarmed, Israel would continue to arm its proxy militias in Gaza. They would continue to try to stoke a civil war and drive millions of Palestinians into the sea and permanent exile.
So what y'all think? Do y'all think Jared Kushner is going to be able to convince Benjamin Netanyahu to go along with this deal?
Ministers have made no secret that the real aim of their offensive is to engineer a large-scale voluntary migration from Gaza. The model for what could still happen in Gaza is the withdrawal of the PLO from Beirut in 1982. Before the PLO withdrew from Beirut, it required assurances from Israel and America of safe passage and the safety of Palestinians in the camps, an assurance that would be underwritten by guarantees from the US State Department. These assurances were written down. They were contained in 2 letters from Philip Habib, President Reagan's special negotiator in Lebanon. Both the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin and Bashir Gemayel, the leader of the Phalangists, were in on Habib's talks. Upon Begin's answers, which Gemayel endorsed, Habib and the State Department issued its guarantee to the PLO. On September the 14th, Gemayel was assassinated and the Israeli army stormed into Beirut. The following day, an Israeli general, who was one day to become its new prime minister, Ariel Sharon, sat in a tank and lit the way with flares for the Phalangists to enter Sabra and Shatila refugee camps. Between 2,000 and 3,500
We almost there, guys. I love this history on this. Sorry.
500 refugees and Lebanese civilians were killed in 2 days. What happened in Sabra and Shatila has etched a deep scar in the Palestinian memory. Palestinians should not allow this to be repeated with Hamas, nor with the population of Gaza. The Mecca Agreement is a much-needed, long overdue start to a new security order in the Middle East. Even at birth, it faces huge obstacles.
But I think it does. It faces huge obstacles, but I think once time go by, it will come together because there's nothing that the U.S. can do right now.
Turkey tried hard to get Egypt to be a founding member.
And I think Egypt will eventually join. I do.
Said it balked at entering an alliance which it saw as political rather than military. It also said it was too anti-Israeli. But I have also other sources that tell me that Saudi Arabia could have objected to Egypt on the grounds that the Egyptian army was too weak and that it was too closely allied to its rival, the UAE. These inter-Arab strains are precisely why we're in the situation we're all in. Israel's plan to push millions of Palestinians into the sea affects the Sinai and Egypt more than any other country in the region. It's abundantly in Egypt's interests to join this pact. Because
what y'all think? Y'all think Egypt will? I do. I think they will. All right, let's go.
Ultimately, the core issue is not an America in decline or what Israeli troops are allowed to get away with in Palestine. Ultimately, it's about Arab and Turkish and local sovereignty over their own land and their own people. Either the region is doomed for another century of colonial domination, this time by Israel as the satrap, or it's really time for the three biggest powers of the region to break this cycle. If a pact with
They're going to break the cycle.
This military, technological and financial weight falls at the first hurdle. Each Arab government knows it will be the next victim of an Israeli-inspired war.
And that part right there, they got to shut it down because Israel's been doing this for a long time. And it's all about territory and land. All right, guys. Okay. Oh, the fighting is back on in southern Lebanon. Remember, I told you Israel is dropping bombs on homes. They carried out multiple strikes, and what else? Oh, and they blamed this attack because, of course, he's up for election, and right now, Israel they don't feel like they're winning. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Breaking news: after months of relative quiet, the fighting is back on in southern Lebanon. Israel just launched one of its deadliest waves of airstrikes since the fragile ceasefire framework took hold, killing at least 11 people,
We knew this wasn't going to last.
including women and children in South Lebanon. 3 Israeli soldiers were seriously wounded in what Israel calls a Hezbollah FPV drone attack on the strategic Ali al-Tahrir Ridge. Israel used that as the excuse to hit residential areas hard. Hezbollah has stayed mostly silent on direct responses for weeks. The silence is now ending.
Yeah, they said that's it. They're going to get a response. So it is about to get insane, super insane. And I'm wondering if Israel is going to try to get us to assist in this. But let's take a listen.
Here's what happened in the last 24 hours. Overnight into Saturday, Israeli warplanes hit a family home in Ansar, killing 7 people, including 3 children and 2 women. Hours later, they struck Deir al-Zahrani, raising the death toll to 11, with nearly 20 wounded. Israel claims it was targeting Hezbollah infrastructure after activity against its forces on Ali al-Tahrir Hill, the same hill Israel's been trying and failing to fully control. Al-Manar and
Davis said that Israel is now under pressure because the Muslim countries surrounding it. Yeah, I agree.
Lebanese sources say Israel also carried out multiple strikes across the ridge and continued demolitions in border villages. Hezbollah responded with a clear statement. These attacks on civilians will be met with an appropriate response. They called on Netanyahu for escalating to boost his political standing and blamed both Israel and the U.S. for the ongoing aggression. But let's be real. Israel is a foreign army still occupying Lebanese land, demolishing homes, bombing villages, and killing civilians while claiming it's all for security. The Lebanese people have every right to respond to an illegal occupation on their own soil. The Lebanese government keeps negotiating and offering concessions, even as the bombs keep falling and the occupation continues. That makes them look complicit, which they are. Hezbollah gave Israel a chance to respect the ceasefire and pull back. Israel never slowed down. The strikes, the demolitions, and the civilian deaths never stopped. This is not a return to the full-scale war yet, but let's see what happens next.
Eventually, once Hezbollah responds, it will be. It'll go right back to where it was at prior to the MOU. Okay. So again, I told you guys that he's sending Jared Kushner over there to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu. Jared Kushner will soon visit Israel and Egypt to advance Trump's Gaza peace plan. The mission follows Netanyahu's rejection of Trump's 15-point roadmap for Gaza. Remember, they wanted them to disarm slowly, and he said no. Netanyahu says Israeli forces will not withdraw until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. Hamas supports the plan, but links disarmament to an Israel withdrawal and ceasefire. So remember when they came back, they said they're still in favor of the deal. And we waited, and then Benjamin Netanyahu came out and said no. All right, let's go. Kushner will join Nikolai Maldonov and Tony Blair for talks with Israeli officials. The delegation will meet Egyptian, Qatar, and Turkish mediators in Cairo. The talks will test whether Israel and Hamas can agree who moves first. It got to be Hamas. He's not going to do it any other way.
So tomorrow marks the end of the...
All right, guys. Tomorrow is the end of the 60-day MOU, and neither side has said they would extend it.
60-day memorandum of understanding between Iran and the United States, although both countries have acknowledged that it's not really active right now. Iran just fired on a ship going through the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday. The U.S. naval blockade is still in effect. So what do you think comes next? Is there a diplomatic solution, or does this just continue the way it is?
We're at a deadlock.
The 60-day deadline for a final agreement is here, but no deal to end the war has been reached. An environmental disaster is spreading along Oman.
Now, guys, remember, pay attention. The last live stream, Iran said that they seen a heavy military presence, U.S. presence, like we're moving in on them, a buildup. And they said that they are preparing. So they feel like this conflict is going to amp up. So this little pause, they believe, was to build up U.S. presence over there to get ready for whatever's next. So we may be resuming.
Coastline, and Israel launches its deadliest strikes on Lebanon since June. Here's what you need to know. Here's a reminder of what was in the Memorandum of Understanding, which was meant to bring the US-Israeli war on Iran to an end. It was a 14-point document which sets out plans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, ease financial restrictions on Iran, and pave the way for talks on Iran's nuclear program. This written agreement, which rested on a lot of good faith, was the roadmap to negotiating a final deal, which would be endorsed by a binding resolution by the UN Security Council. It was low-key historic when it was signed on the 17th of June, as it gave both countries a way out of the war. But it's not...
Gave both countries a way out of the war, and neither side has taken that opportunity. Again, I feel like Trump missed the ball where he had the opportunity to call them to the table.
legally enforceable.
چیزی که در یادداشت تفاهم اسلام آباد آمده خاتمه جنگه، یعنی در یادداشت تفاهم اسلام آباد خاتمه جنگ اعلام شده. بله آمریکا این یادداشت تفاهم رو نقض کرده و ما دوباره درگیری ها شروع شده، ولی چیزی ما به عنوان آتش‌بس نداشتیم که حالا بخواد تمدید بشه. خاتمه جنگ رو داشت.
And now he's basically saying we already went over this, but he's talking about the MOU and how the US violated.
که الان وضعیت جدیدی پیدا کرده.
Both sides have traded strikes over the alleged violations of the MOU. So what happens next? Iran says its talks with Oman are close to establishing a new maritime route through the Strait of Hormuz. But Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi.
Now, guys, remember, if the straits are back open, our allies did offer to clean those mines. So I'm just wondering how this is going to work. NATO, actually.
She says those talks are separate from the question of reopening the vital shipping route.
این مذاکره با باز شدن تنگه هرمز دو بحث جداگانه هست. یک مذاکره فنی هست مربوط به تعیین مسیر دریایی. وقتی این مسیر تعیین شد، حالا آیا بازگشایی بشه تنگه یا نه، اون منو
That part, you said Kushner has no real qualifications, but you know why they're sending Kushner, right? Because he knows Benjamin Netanyahu personally. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was in school in Philly, he used to stay at Kushner's house. So he's been knowing Kushner since he was a kid.
به تحقق شرایط دیگری هست که باید آمریکا به اونها پایبند باشه.
US officials say Washington can keep up its naval blockade of Iranian ports indefinitely and apply new economic measures to pressure Iran. This came after Trump signaled he would rather rely on squeezing Tehran's economy than return to a military offensive. But how long can the US keep a naval blockade going, and can Iran wait it out?
قبلا ما کشتی می آوردیم، حالا کلی مسیر عبور میکنه میاد، قیمت تموم شده رفته بالا، زدن یه سری از کارخونه ها رو خراب کرد.
Now remember, the president, he was pushing for negotiations, but what he's basically saying, he's talking about their economy. He's just saying their economy decreased. We used to sell our oil, we can't anymore.
مالیات هم نمیتونیم به اون شکل بگیریم.
But now we cannot sell it.
نه تنها نمیتونیم
They have destroyed a number of factories.
بگیریم، باید به اونا پولم بدیم که
And we cannot collect taxes from them in the same way.
سرپا بایستن.
A report from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies estimated that the blockade was likely costing Iran $435 million a day. Inflation is likely to hit 70% by the end of the year, according to estimates by the IMF. Vice President J.D. Vance, who has been tasked with leading negotiations, told Fox News there's another priority in the war.
Keep oil and gas cheap for Americans all over.
This is not a military objective to end the war. It's to keep the gas. It's nice that he's saying it, but that's not. How are we going to end this conflict?
Our country. That's goal number one.
But are global oil stocks even big enough to weather another 6 months of war? And has it become about who blinks first under economic pressure? Meanwhile, an environmental disaster is unfolding in the Arabian Sea. An oil spill from a tanker that ran aground off Oman has now reached around 12 kilometers of coastline. The Caroline Bazengi was carrying around 800,000 barrels of oil. Weeks later, the spill reached one of the region's important marine habitats. Greenpeace says the contamination reaching the shoreline makes the cleanup far more.
Now, Diamond Gang, after this, we're going to get into our allies basically stating that they don't want to host any bases over there in the Middle East. And then we are going to get into the USS Abraham. And then I'll end the laugh with that.
More difficult.
The shift from it being offshore to now confirmed shoreline contamination also raises the stakes considerably.
The tanker is believed to be part of Russia's shadow fleet, sailing from a Russian port to India when
they're trying to say they don't know how this ship, like who struck this ship that's leaking this oil.
It reported an explosion off Yemen's coast. Separate slicks have also been spotted near Iran's Qeshm Island. Iran-backed Houthis have forced Yemen's Al-Makha port to suspend operations after being hit by more than 25 missiles in recent attacks. The group also launched a sixth ballistic missile attack on the government-held city of Ma'rib, hitting a bakery and wounding a civilian. And Israeli attacks continue in Lebanon, despite the MOU explicitly saying military operations would cease there.
So we have several, since the MOU was signed, we have several fronts that we need to clear up. We have Gaza, Hezbollah, we have Saudi and the Houthis, and potentially Qatar and Iran about these missing soldiers or pilots.
The next threat to the homeland can...
Oh, no. Sorry, guys. I took it all the way to the beginning. Let me bring it back. Sorry, guys. So we got a number of things going on. Hold on, guys. Here we go. Let me hit the play button.
Be a swarm of inexpensive drones.
Hold on, guys. Okay, here we go. I got to move it up some. I apologize. But we have a number of conflicts going on that is going to be potentially a problem if we are able to get a deal on the table. Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys.
Strikes on Lebanon since June. Here's what you need to know.
I'll bring it up a little more.
Definitely. And applying new economic measures to pressure Iran. This came after Trump signaled he would rather rely on squeezing Tehran's economy than return to a military offensive. But how long can the US keep a naval blockade going?
That's the thing. And this is the sad part. And I know you guys don't want to hear this, but that blockade could sit there for years. For years. That's the sad part about it.
And can Iran wait it out?
قبلا ما کشتی می آوردیم حالا کلی مسیر رو عبور میکنه میاد قیمت تموم شده رفته بالا زدن یه سری از کارخونه ها رو خراب کردن مالیات هم نمیتونیم به اون شکل بگیریم نه تنها نمیتونیم بگیریم باید به اونا پولم بدیم که
According to Iran, they said that they could wait out until January 2029 if they have to.
سرپا بیستن.
A report from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies estimated that the blockade was likely costing Iran $435 million a day. Inflation is likely to hit 70% by the end of the year, according to estimates by the IMF. Vice President J.D.
But remember, guys, I played a piece in the beginning. Back in 2018, the sanctions was even more severe.
Vance, who has been tasked with leading negotiations, told Fox News there's another priority in the war.
Keep oil and gas cheap for Americans all over our country. That's goal number one.
But are global oil stocks even big enough to weather another 6 months of war? And has it become about who blinks first under economic pressure? Meanwhile, an environmental disaster is unfolding in the Arabian Sea. An oil spill from a tanker that ran aground off Oman has now reached around 12 kilometers of coastline. The Caroline Bazengi was carrying around 800,000 barrels of oil. Weeks later, the spill reached one of the region's important marine habitats. Greenpeace says the contamination reaching the shoreline makes the cleanup far more difficult.
The shift from it being offshore to now confirmed shoreline contamination also raises the stakes considerably.
The tanker is believed to be part of Russia's shadow fleet, sailing from a Russian port to India when it reported an explosion off Yemen's coast. Separate slicks have also been spotted near Iran's Qashem Island. Iran-backed Houthis have forced Yemen's Al-Mecca port to suspend operations after being hit by more than 25 missiles in recent attacks. The group also launched a sixth ballistic...
Remember, I showed you guys the Houthis arsenal.
...missile attack on the government-held city of Ma'ib, hitting a bakery and wounding a civilian. And Israeli attacks continue in Lebanon, despite the MOU explicitly saying military operations would cease there. Airstrikes have killed at least 11 people in the south, including 3 children from one family in the town of Ansar, in the deadliest attacks since a ceasefire on the 3rd of June. Hezbollah says the raids will be met with an appropriate response and is urging Beirut to drop what it calls humiliating talks under U.S. mediation.
See, he knows how to get to me.
The president of Lebanon, I don't know why he allowed that deal to be put in place. And again, the U.S. is supposed to oversee that deal. I haven't heard President Trump say not one thing about it. All right, let's get into the Middle East not wanting to host us.
Really significant news right now. America's allies in the Middle East are reconsidering hosting American military bases as they have lost.
Let me tell you something. This is a win for Iran. That was their objective. That's why they kept bombing Jordan. And yeah, they want us out of the Middle East. This is a solid win for them if this happens.
Confidence in Donald Trump's ability to handle the war in Iran. These aren't our adversaries. These are our allies. New Washington Post reporting confirms that Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain are now united in being aggravated with the American government. They're so aggravated that some have even, quote, begun to debate the utility of continuing to host large U.S. military installations in their country. Our allies no longer believe that Donald Trump is equipped to manage the diplomacy that is necessary to put an.
Let me read this. American allies in the Middle East are allies because they expect America to come to their protection. And as America cannot do that, the countries in the Middle East have to find more reliable allies. This is another reason why I believe when this is all said and done, we will be alienated. It's going to be a mess for the next person coming into office to try to mend all of these fractured relationships. But let's listen. We didn't even get to the South Korea part.
End to the war in Iran and achieve lasting peace in the region. This is monumental. It's monumental because for the first time, our allies in the Middle East, which some even suggested supported the war, are now united against this president. Spread the word, follow for more.
U.S. Gulf allies are becoming increasingly frustrated with Donald Trump because they don't think he has a strategy in the Iran war. New reports outline several key reasons why these nations like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain are losing.
I think they feel like I did. We missed the opportunity to negotiate.
Faith in U.S. leadership. Gulf leaders feel unnecessarily entangled in a war that Trump is trapped in and cannot resolve through diplomacy. They view his behavior as extremely unpredictable. He oftentimes makes aggressive threats on social media, then suddenly backs away and claims peace talks are making progress. Officials state that instead of keeping them safe, the current U.S. approach is making the entire region much more dangerous. They point to ongoing Iranian drone and missile counterattacks that continue to threaten their borders. Additionally, diplomatic frameworks like the stalled MOU are being criticized by local leaders as completely ineffective. And a severe shortage of U.S. missile interceptors has left Gulf nations terrified they're defenseless against an angry Iran. Our Gulf allies.
Remember, they were intentionally allowing some of those missiles to get through.
Are so angry they're now considering whether or not they should stop hosting U.S. military bases on their soil.
This is the message that he put out. He said, very happy to see that Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan have recently and finally signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. It shows how the Middle East is coming together and how countries will finally be able to defend themselves in a more meaningful way. Congrats to the great leadership of the three nations mentioned. This is a big, bold, and important first step. Wow. I don't believe that. I don't believe this message. I believe that he was upset that they feel like we can't protect them anymore. But let's go.
President Trump just released this.
Now we're going to get into President Trump downsizing military exercises with South Korea because of his good relationship with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. So let's listen to it.
Statement saying, based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I'm not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, which must of these costs paid by the United States of America, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile.
So guys, remember, this is another ally that we're turning our back on.
Hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, and based on the fact that it's too late to cancel.
You said Israel is now at risk in the Middle East. That's why I said their days are numbered. It's over.
I've instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And
that's another reason why he's upset, because South Korea opted not to get involved in this conflict with Iran.
They said, no thanks. Follow for the latest international updates.
For the first time in American history, the United States under Donald Trump just betrayed South Korea, siding with North Korea, a dictatorship. I'm serious. Trump is cozying up to Kim Jong-un as we speak, and minutes ago announced that he ordered Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to substantially reduce the joint military exercise the United States of America has had nearly every year since 1974. And the reason he did it? Well, because apparently South Korea wouldn't get involved in the war in Iran. And Trump is now saying that based on his, quote, good relationship with Kim Jong-un, he's not happy with the fact that the United States agreed to participate in these joint military exercises with South Korea. This is a major victory for Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un has long decried.
I agree. You said South Korea will see this as a betrayal. I believe that. Absolutely.
The United States' joint military exercises in relationship with South Korea. And now Trump is abandoning South Korea at a time where South Korea needs the United States, and instead is saying we're lowering the amount of military presence at these joint exercises. Spread the word, follow along for all.
So you figure NATO's not too happy with us, some of NATO. We have the Middle East states that's not too happy with us. Now we have potentially South Korea.
All the news you need to know about.
Here's his message. Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States of America as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, this is insane. And based on the fact that it is too late to cancel, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they said no thanks. So it's a tit for tat. We're going to be standing alone with no allies. This is not good. All right, now we're going to...
The U.S. military says...
We're going to get into the Abraham, the USS Abraham. Midas Touch actually clapped back. They did some reporting, and of course, they denied. Pete Hegseth and Trump put statements out there denying it, and basically talked about the media. So some of them are clapping back. Let's get into it.
Switching out one of its most important aircraft carriers in the war on Iran, amid reports of dire conditions aboard, including suicide attempts amongst sailors. And although the crisis on the USS Abraham Lincoln has alarm bells ringing in Washington, Donald Trump has brushed it off.
Of U.S. service members are concerned about the conditions.
Let me say this. I really feel bad because, hold on, let me read this comment from David. Hold on. David says, I feel sorry for Japan and Taiwan and the Philippines. I really feel bad for them too, but especially for Taiwan, okay? Because they just recently asked a couple months back for a package, and China, the president of China was here, and Trump didn't say yes or no. And I think it's going to come down to it, where that conflict may arise, but we won't be able to help them either.
For the USS Lincoln.
Well, no, that ship is moving. No, they're not.
The deployment's not on too long.
No. Not nearly long enough.
Here are the details. Reports say several sailors have tried to jump overboard after spending more than 250 days at sea. Conditions on the Nimitz-class carrier.
And for those that don't know, it's supposed to port every 30 to 45 days. So you figure that's 4 times is the allotted time.
area are worsening, with reports of a lack of food and personal supplies, exhaustion and plumbing problems. Several American lawmakers, including veterans, want an investigation.
This president got us into this war with Iran with no strategic goal, without a plan, without a timeline, and he has no way out. And because of that, you've got these deployments that are being extended to much beyond what anybody had anticipated or planned for.
You've got a president who, has changed a dozen times, saying often that we've won. Well, if we've won, bring everybody home. And if we haven't,
I love that line. Bring everybody home.
Tell the truth about why we're still there.
The crisis has been building for months, but back in April, US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth called it more fake news. But pressure isn't just coming from within the US anymore. Iranian media has alleged 7 sailors were killed in an onboard brawl. There's no evidence that this is...
Now, they are saying that there are more casualties than what the U.S. is telling, what CENTCOM, what they're telling us, they're telling us. They claim 18. They said there are more. So I'm going to keep my eye on it.
It's true. And observers say Iran is using reports of growing problems on the Lincoln as a tool to highlight the cost of war on Americans. The US Central Command, in its own fact check, said the reports are false. But the mounting outrage has forced Hegseth to comment again.
Completely misrepresented. Listen, we make sure that every ship, every crew, every captain.
Listen, they had a visit, the commander, and I have that clip.
Has everything we can provide them at every single moment.
U.S. officials say the USS George Washington.
18 so far have been disclosed, but they're saying there's way more.
Washington's on the way to replace the Lincoln. Now, long stints at sea are not unusual. The Lincoln actually holds the record for the longest post-Cold War era deployment for a US carrier, 295 days. But during that deployment, the carrier docked multiple times and sailors got a break. Not so now. Supporters of the servicemen say the crisis isn't a reflection of the sailors' ability to do their jobs. It's a reflection of those who've sent them there.
I don't want to hear from anybody that these people care about.
Now, this is the Midas touch, clapping back at Pete Hegseth and President Trump because they are downplaying this and they're basically calling the family members liars and saying that it's fake news.
Our troops ever again. The responses that we're seeing from people like Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and other people in leadership right now about the USS Lincoln and the conditions aboard many other ships, by the way, is unconscionable. And now these complete and total frauds and Mr. Bone Spurs himself have the nerve to criticize our reporting at Midas Touch as we elevate the voices of the families of the...
It was so gross, and I seen the video you're talking about. It was gross.
Those sailors who are suffering right now. When Trump was asked about the reporting and asked about family members being concerned about conditions on the Lincoln, he said that they're not actually concerned. When he was asked if the deployment has gone on for too long, he said it has not gone on for nearly long enough. Pete Hegseth attacked our reporting, saying the reckless and shameless American media completely and intentionally misrepresent the USS Abraham Lincoln, echoing comments that he made in an interview yesterday as well. And there's Trump's acting Navy Secretary, Hung Cao, who said that this is all mission accomplished and that, war is hell. War? I thought we weren't at a war. What do you mean war is hell? This is all part of a planned rotation. Deployments are hard. Normal routines are disrupted. There will always be uncertainty. In other words, he's telling our troops to suck it up and stop whining. Listen, our reporters have been speaking directly with the families of those sailors aboard the USS Lincoln and across the region, and they are all telling us about the dire conditions there. And now they are even more furious that they are being called liars by the Trump regime. I mean, what an absolute disgrace. And if they think their attacks are going to scare us away from this reporting, well, on the contrary, we are going to double down.
I have one more update from the Midas Touch as well, so they clap back again.
On this reporting, we're going to keep speaking with the family members of those service members who are deployed overseas to bring you the truth. Now, here's a very simple way that you could help. share their stories, share the stories of these family members who have their loved ones overseas who are suffering right now. We actually have a few podcasts right now where we share their stories. So if you can, go to them, listen to the episodes, share them with a friend, post them on social media. Here's one that we just posted on the Midas Touch podcast feed. It's called Pentagon Attacks Midas Over Our USS Lincoln Reporting. We won't back down. Here's another recent episode of the Midas Touch podcast. Rotten Meat, No Milk, Soldier's Family tells all to Midas about USS Abraham Lincoln, and this features an interview with Aaron Parnas.
I need you all to see this. This is video from on the USS Abraham Lincoln, of which
So this is the leak, guys.
has no problems on it, according to Trump and Pete Hegseth. They say the reports are grossly over-exaggerated. Let me know what you guys think.
Did y'all see the dirty water coming out those sinks? Here's the deal. That water contaminated. They could get sick, very sick, bacterial diseases and everything.
That video was allegedly from a wife of a sailor stationed on the Abraham Lincoln. Do you think the reports were exaggerated? Does that look like nothing wrong with the USS Abraham Lincoln? This matches up to what service members have been reporting. This is what Trump and his administration did not want you to see. They don't want the American people seeing this, and now they are racing to replace the ship so that this does.
Oh, guys, I forgot to tell you, they're threatening the soldiers to sign NDAs in order to come home. I forgot to bring that clip. Yes, they are threatening them. If you want to come home, you have to sign an NDA not to speak on this.
Does not come out. And just a reminder, Trump the other day said he didn't think the deployment was long enough. He didn't feel that their extended deployment was that long. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow along for more, and I'll see you back here for the 401.
Well, my next guest has been.
Now, this is Aaron. This is my guy. I watch him a lot. This is just a very small snippet of his interview, and he spoke to many of the family members.
Watching this story very closely. Independent journalist Aaron Parnas joins me now. I mean, the accounts are being told horrific. I mean, they are talking about the deprivation that some of them are feeling, the mental health issues that are happening, people jumping overboard, and you speak.
Yes, EJ and NDA. If they want to get off the boat and ship and come home, they have to sign an NDA not to speak on it. The administration got them signing it.
You've spoken to families.
And they're going to do it out of desperation.
Families of the service members, what are they telling you?
Well, I mean, I think it's not just one account, right?
Yeah.
It's consistent across the board, and it's not on just one ship. Service members across the region right now are suffering. They have lack of hygiene products. They have lack of.
They just had to. He just spoke out about the females not having tampons and pads and stuff like that.
Fresh food. I mean, I was a lawyer before doing this work, and I saw prison inmates having better meals than some of these service members are having aboard some of these aircraft carriers right now. It is very bad, and I think the worst part about it all is that their mental health is suffering. A lot of these service members have been away from their families for a very long time. That is what they signed up for in a way. But for example, with the USS Abraham Lincoln, it's now the deployment was supposed to end in May. We're now in August, and it still hasn't ended, even though a new ship is supposedly coming soon. And so these service members are really struggling, and their families at home are really struggling as well.
And I can imagine the ship that is supposed to come to replace, they surely have heard about this, and they're going to wonder if the same fate will be for them in an endless war at this point in time without really understanding the length of their next deployment. And the families have now heard the commander-in-chief react and say, no, they haven't. It's not nearly long enough.
Yeah, and it's not just the commander-in-chief. It's the Secretary of Defense yesterday coming out and saying that the reports are misrepresenting what's actually happening on the ships. And these families are telling me, we're not misrepresenting it. It's not a political issue to them. It's their sons, their daughters, their livelihoods at issue.
Listen, if President Trump loses the House, they better get ready. And I heard that morale is very low. They are very fearful because they will face many investigations and potential indictments. Okay. It's not going to be good for Pete Hegseth, for President Trump, for I can't even think of his name right now. The attorney. Yeah, it's not going to be good for them.
Some of them voted for this president, right? The service members are not Republican or Democrat. They just serve the United States Armed Forces.
Todd Blanche, that's who I was thinking of.
And at the end of the day, they are terrified of what they're seeing from the commander-in-chief and from the Secretary of Defense.
Is there a sense of a timeline it's already been over 250 days. That's a record apparently as well. And mind you, they have not set foot on shore in that amount of time. There are 5,000 of them on this aircraft carrier at this one alone. Is there an update that they've gotten on any timelines?
No, not really. And if you heard what Pete Hegseth said over the past 24 hours, we could have a naval blockade in Iran indefinitely, is what he said. And so we could just keep swapping aircraft carriers over the next two plus years. And there is no timeline. The USS Abraham Lincoln is theoretically being swapped out in the next month or so, but who knows?
And I know that we don't have this active draft, so they always think about retention and recruitment. This can't possibly be helping.
No, not at all. And I think any young person in the United States of America today, seeing these images, hearing these.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right now, as far as the numbers of enlistments, probably dropped tremendously. And they go to the high schools and stuff like that. That's how I ended up in the military. They came to my high school.
Stories. Why would they want to enlist? I mean, you just don't want that. And you're going to have recruitment numbers likely come down in the next several months as this war prolongs.
Erin Parnas, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
A U.S. official has confirmed to me that the USS George Washington, which is typically based in Japan, is heading to the Middle East. My source couldn't say if this air.
So again, Diamond Gang, that is the ship that will replace the one that they're on. Thank God. It's going to take a couple of days, a week maybe.
Aircraft carrier would be relieving the beleaguered USS Lincoln, but Navy leaders have consistently told families of the Lincoln that there needs to be 2 aircraft carriers close to Iran to support the war effort. The Lincoln has been in the region since February, and the other aircraft carrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, got there in April. So it does seem likely that the Washington is going to relieve the Lincoln, especially after all of our reporting about the conditions on the ship and the low morale and exhaustion that's taking a toll on service members, even prompting one to jump off the ship in what his wife described as a suicide attempt. The president denied any concerns from family members and even said the deployment hasn't been long enough.
That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Let me stop this. EJ, did you change your profile? I was wondering why you didn't have a mod stick. Is this a different profile?
No. Not nearly long enough.
Last week, the acting secretary of the Navy told families in a town hall that they could not move the Washington to the Middle East, even though it was closer, because the United States needed to maintain a presence in Asia. He had indicated that instead they would move the USS Theodore Roosevelt, an aircraft carrier that's based in San Diego. The United States has kept an aircraft carrier near Asia since 1973 to serve as a deterrent to countries like China, North Korea, and Russia. A carrier there cuts down the time it would take to get to that region by more than 2 weeks, according to the Navy. With no clear end in sight, the ongoing war in Iran seems to be causing a domino effect when it comes to our military posture around the world. So are Moscow and Beijing taking notice of these gaps?
What was your reaction today to President Trump?
All right, guys, listen to this. This is a wife of a U.S. service member that's aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. She was very upset that President Trump basically called them liars. But I have to totally agree. I agree with everything she said.
Saying that, in fact, he didn't think the USS Lincoln's deployment has been, quote, long enough.
Oh, my God. I don't think the man thinks before he talks, and I was really hoping that at some point there would be a redemption. Try to redeem yourself at least a little bit with everything that you do and everything that you say, and try to redeem yourself. Have some sympathy, some empathy, take some accountability for what's going on with your military, your ships, in your war. It's infuriating. I mean, we heard what Hegseth said yesterday, what the president is saying today. It's infuriating. It's essentially saying that families are lying and service members are lying, even though the proof is right here on my phone. It is not fabricated. nobody is lying. Everybody it's infuriating that they're not taking accountability and not having any sort of sympathy for our service members that they claim to scream and shout that they support when it's politically, sound for them to use support our troops until our troops need support. And now suddenly everyone's lying and it's a fabrication and it's a misrepresentation.
Well, here they go again, the Trump regime.
All right, guys, we're going to close out with this last one. And I'm going to show you, well, the last one is actually the commander coming in and checking on them. But of course, they attacked the Midas touch again, and they clapped back again this morning.
Continues to lie about our very well-sourced reporting about the dire conditions not only aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, but on other ships across the Middle East. By now, you've probably seen this story on Midas Touch News from Aaron Parnas. They were begging us to send them extra pads and tampons. Family member describes feminine hygiene shortage aboard the USS Boxer. And the article features this.
So it's not just one ship, it's multiple ships. Anybody that's over there on a ship, actually. David said Trump does not care because he was a draft dodger in the Vietnam War. Yeah, he definitely dodged it.
Message that Aaron received that said, family member here, family and friends on the Boxer have been out so long and aren't receiving care packages. Women have run out of feminine hygiene items due to no resupplies happening. They pack enough and some extra for deployment, but not for all the extensions and no port calls. The family member added they were begging us to send them extra pads and tampons so they could share them out, but then none of our packages got delivered. And now today, the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command wrote, reports emerging of USS Boxer experiencing a shortage in hygiene products for women in uniform are false. The ship has had 4 port visits since departing San Diego in March. The crew has been at sea for less than 2 months since the last port call, and they are stocked with feminine products.
It's the audacity to call these people liars.
Including at the ship store and in medical offices on board. Additionally, the ship has had 2 major mail deliveries so far during the month of August. We're hearing from dozens and dozens of family members of service members who are aboard these ships. And we've seen these same blanket denials for months and months about the dire conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln and other ships. Our reporting was spot on then, and it is correct right now. And we're going to continue to report what service members and their families are actually experiencing, no matter how many times the Trump regime tries to deny it. And now let me show you some receipts. This is Midas Touch journalist Suri Crow chatting with a Marine Corps veteran and journalist back in May about the messages that he was receiving from a sailor aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln describing the horrific conditions. And so Suri did what any good reporter would do. She reached out to the Pentagon and asked them about these dire conditions. But the Pentagon's response, well, they didn't even respond. Instead, they said that they were going to point us to a series of tweets that called the reports false and fake news and said they had nothing else to share.
The cover-up. The cover-up.
And of course, we've now been hearing more and more and more about the conditions as they've gotten even worse over the past few months. I kid you not, this is one of the tweets that they directed us to. This tweet from Pete Hegseth saying, fake news. You know, I wish CENTCOM and the Trump regime did tell the truth about what was going on overseas, but it's clear that they do not want to do that. But that's not going to stop us here from reporting on that.
Now, this is actually, they said the CENTCOM commander, Cooper, he actually did visit the USS Abraham Lincoln once he heard about these problems. But he gave them a pep talk, basically, and that was that. So hopefully, they'll swap out and get these men and women the help that they need, especially the ones that is struggling with mental health. All right, so let me close this out. Listen, guys, this was a good laugh. I want to say shouts out to David. Thank you. EJ, Marie, Sass came through. Do the Right Thing came through. Thank you. Tonight, my YouTube audience showed up and showed out. But I still want to say shouts out to my Rumble family. Please, if you're over there on Rumble, hit that follow button. The Great Spills the Tea. I cover celebrity gossip, and then my live streams consist of war updates and other political topics. I also have the great reactions over there on Rumble, where I actually react to viral moments. And then I have a third channel, the Great Political Rants, where it's basically, it consists of debates, political debates only. If you are on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. The Great Spills the Tea. Okay, I cover the same content that I do on Rumble, celebrity gossip, as well as political topics. Okay, keep y'all notifications on. Guess what, guys? I think that I'm going to do a deep dive on Jared Kushner. So please keep your notifications on. Again, the MOU ceasefire is up tomorrow morning. I will keep a close eye on that. If anything happens, you know I will be here with an update. But for now, look out for that Jared Kushner deep dive, okay? We're going to get into his life a little bit. Again, replay gang, if you come through and you replay this live, please subscribe, hit that like button. And again, if you would like to support the channel, it is $, The Great Spills the Tea. Okay. You can also support via super chat, super sticker. On Rumble, it is a rant. But if not, a simple like will do. That is support as well. Okay. So shouts out to everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. It's 1 a.m. East Coast time. Everybody enjoy your night. Morning, noon, or night. Because I know I got people all over the world watching me. David is all the way on the other side of the globe. So, all right, guys. Good night.
It's your under degrees. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea, sip this tea. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling this tea, spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under degree, shining bright. Set the stage, Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea, sip with me. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea.